Frank Ritchie. You may not recognize me in this outfit. This is my chicken outfit. And the reason I wear this, I'm going to tell you a story about New Year's Eve. And if you don't laugh at what I'm going to tell you, turn this thing off because you have no sense of humor. I had a restaurant in Bath Beach, Brooklyn, after I graduated from college and went to OCS and Airborne School and all the things that I did. Then we had this restaurant. It was called Via Appia. I wrote a book about it. Via Appia is the Appian Way in Rome. It was built during the time of the Romans. It's still there. We built a highway in the United States. In 50 years, the road is gone. I have to repave it. This Via Appia is over 2,000 years old. The name of the book is Catering to the Mob, Growing Up in Bath Beach. And these are some of the people that are famous because of their, quote, affiliation with the mafia. Is Carlo Gambino, Paulie Castellano, Joey Colombo, and a few others. Now, on New Year's Eve, we had big orders for outside catering at halls, Knights of Columbus, Knights of Pythias, Veterans, VFW halls, all that kind of stuff. So this particular New Year's Eve, the chicken wants to take off. He wants to fly around the room. This particular New Year's Eve, we had 57 orders for home parties, which is a lot. We were a restaurant in Brooklyn, but we used to do catering in Staten Island, Long Island. Most of it was in Brooklyn. We had some in Queens and even in the Bronx. And so we had all these trucks going out delivering the food. So for New Year's Eve, we'd start sending our trucks out about 2 o'clock in the afternoon, 3 o'clock at the latest, to get to the place, set it up. Most of them use chefing dishes with sternos, so they had to set the table up with the food, put the sternos on so the food would be hot, and then show the people how to do it, how to add another sterno. So we had one woman in particular. Her name was Mrs. La Russa. Mrs. La Russa was the daughter of a Mustache Pete, or a wise guy, who died several years ago. But she still acted as if her father was still alive. And her husband, who was an empty suit, never did anything in his life, and he was a guy with the picky way. He'd walk around and like he didn't really know what he was doing. He had no idea what he was doing. So Mrs. La Russa started, and I'm not exaggerating, on the 4th of July weekend. She came to my restaurant, all dolled up, a lot of lipstick, big fingernails, red paint, and Mr. Ritchie, I want to have a New Year's Eve party for very important people, very good people. I said, fine, I do this is what I do for a living. So she said to me, but I don't want to make a mala figura. In Italian, mala figura means I don't want to make a bad impression. So I would say, oh, no problem, you're not going to make a bad impression, this is going to be fun. So she gave me the order, and initially she had 35 people, good people, coming to her house for Christmas Eve, New Year's Eve. So we had it all set up. About the middle of the summer, Mrs. La Russa shows up with her mother and one of her children, her daughter, and they wanted to go over the menu. I'm talking about in August for New Year's Eve. So very patiently I said, Mrs. La Russa, this is the menu we decided on, blah, 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 blah. The scallopini masala, that had to be the chicken francese. I went through the whole thing. She said, yes. She said, please, Mr. Ritchie, we'd order make mala figura. I said, don't worry, there's no mala figura. I know what I'm doing. Thank you. Well, we get to Labor Day. She calls me again. She says, I just want to make sure that we have the menu right, and we're going to have more people now. Oh, I said, how many more people are we going to have? Oh, she said, instead of 35, there's going to be 38. We used to deal with thousands of people on a weekend. 35 to 38 didn't make any difference. When you cook, you got to have some fun, have a drink of wine. So, as we're getting closer to New Year's Eve, she started calling me more often. So finally I got to the point, I said, look, Mrs. La Russa, we're very busy. We have over 57 orders that have to go out on New Year's Eve. And we have to make sure that the ones that are further away get first. The ones on Long Island, the ones on Staten Island. The ones in Brooklyn near the restaurant will be the last ones to be delivered because it's a short run. Okay, Mr. Richie, but remember, I don't, oh, okay, well, I know, we don't want to make them all if you go down, I understand, fine. So, about 3 or 4 days before the New Year's Eve fiasco, she calls me and she says, oh, Mr. Richie, we're going to have 40 people. I hope we're okay. Mrs. LaRussa, we always give you extra food. That's not a problem. So you're going to have 40 people. I said, we will deliver the food between 11 and 11:30. Oh, please don't be late. She says, my people are coming. These are very important people. These are lawyers. These are doctors. These are senators. Luigi Moreno, who's the state senator, he'll be there with his wife. I said, I know all these people. Don't worry about it. It's fine. All right. New Year's Eve. The truck started what? 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock. They're all going out, and at about 7 o'clock, it started to snow in Brooklyn, like you would believe. The snowflakes were this big. It was coming down so heavy that the drivers were having trouble driving the trucks because they couldn't see. So finally, at 10 o'clock, one of my drivers, his name was Richard, he comes in, he says, Mr. Richie, the roads are very slippery, and I don't know if I could finish all these jobs I have on the truck. I said, Richard, listen, turn the lights on the truck and go very slow. I said, I don't care if you get there late, but you got to get these delivered, especially Mrs. LaRussa. I don't want to hear her calling me. So he went back out, and at 11:30, Richard shows up. He says, I can't drive the truck. I can't see. It's too slippery. I'm going home. I'm going to spend New Year's Eve with my wife. So I said, well, how many jobs do you have left on the truck? Oh, just one. Yeah, you got it. Mrs. LaRussa. I said to myself, oh my God, now what am I going to do? So at a quarter to midnight, Mrs. LaRussa calls. Mr. Richie, Mr. Richie. I said, yes. She says, the phone's not here. All my guests are drunk. They're all complaining there's no food. I said, Mrs. LaRussa, I have bad news for you. It's snowing so hard, the truck can't deliver the last job to you. I'm sorry, we're not going to be able to make it. And she faints. She goes, boom, and she hits the floor. Her husband picks up the phone. He says, I'm going to kill you. I said, that'd be fine. I said, facing death is better than facing your wife. And I hung up the phone.